Hello and welcome to today's recording of Lovingly Guided. I am your host, Nikki Lee, and we are continuing the journey of me reading a chapter each week of my book, Rewriting Life's Rules. This week is chapter 4, and chapter 4 is all about love. Learning self-love, unconditional love, and love within relationships. When I used to think about love, I believed it was all about falling in love with that special someone. The Hallmark movie kind of love, that picture perfect, happily ever after romance you see in those sentimental films. I thought it was about finding a soulmate and living happily ever after. What I didn't realize is that love is much more complex and all-encompassing, with countless facets. It isn't just about romantic love, it's about how we show love to others, even to strangers, and most importantly to ourselves. In this chapter, I will explore the importance of self-love, unconditional love, and love within relationships. Love has always lived in me. Unconditional love became a new concept for me over the past few years. It's a beautiful and complex idea, one that challenges us to love without judgment, without expectations, and without conditions. In a perfect world, we would show this kind of love to all beings. But as humans, our emotions and egos sometimes get in the way. Looking back, I realized I've always had a strong capacity for unconditional love, just not for myself. As a child, I felt it for the natural world. I remember crying in school when I learned about deforestation, overwhelmed by the loss of trees I had never even seen. I felt it for strangers, sensing a deep, unspoken connection, though I rarely spoke of it, fearing I would be misunderstood. The first time I consciously recognized this love in a relationship was with a partner. Early in our time together, we hadn't yet said I love you, but I felt a deep desire to support his dreams, even if it meant pausing my own for a while. His happiness mattered to me simply because it was his. But unconditional love doesn't mean accepting harmful behavior or staying in toxic situations. It means loving without judgment while knowing when to set healthy boundaries. This realization is what finally allowed me to turn that same love inward, to honor my needs, to protect my well-being, and to value myself as deeply as I valued others. A great example of unconditional love is the love we feel for our pets. We do everything for them without expecting anything in return. It's the kind of love that doesn't fade based on actions or behavior. It simply is. Learning to give that same steady, unshakable love to myself has been one of the most transformative shifts of my life. Learning and unlearning love in relationships. I've always dreamed of the sappy romantic love story, where you lock eyes from across a crowded room and feel an undeniable cosmic connection without saying a word, where passion, heat, and romance never fade, and you stay in the honeymoon phase for life, living out the ultimate fairy tale romance. But like many things, I was told that this isn't realistic. Love and relationships take hard work and commitment. Despite being a hopeless romantic, I found it difficult to find true love. I entered every relationship with the expectation that the other person would make me happy and solve all my problems. Unsurprisingly, this approach rarely worked out. My desperation for a fairy tale ending caused me to overlook red flags, which would later contribute to the relationship breaking down. My insecurities also played a big role, often sabotaging the connection. I used to think that love was a one-way street, with only my second half playing a role in making it work. My people-pleasing tendencies, low self-esteem, and inclination to see the good in everyone made me fall for people too quickly. I would give everything for that person, often losing myself in the process. I had expectations of how love should look, but because I never communicated those expectations, I was left disappointed when the reality didn't match my fantasy. In the end, I realized that my happiness was my own responsibility, and that a relationship should add to my happiness, not be the sole source of it. I also had to learn that I wasn't here to fix anyone. I believed that by loving someone deeply, I could help take away their pain and suffering. However, I now understand there are several flaws in this mindset. Lack of acceptance. I wasn't truly accepting my partner for who they were. I thought they needed to be more like me, with my right answers. This led to them feeling unworthy or not enough. Imagine someone constantly telling you that you need to act a certain way. It doesn't feel good. Ignoring red flags. Because I wasn't seeing my partner for who they truly were, I overlooked behaviors that didn't align with my values. I thought I could change them to fit my ideal. Judgment in disguise. By trying to fix them, I was adding judgment to the relationship, which this is not unconditional love. Resentment. Over time, this mindset caused resentment, ultimately leading to unhappiness for both parties involved. My intention behind trying to change someone is really malicious, but it's not a healthy or sustainable mindset. We all have our own unique stories, and you can only control your own. It's important to remember that your beliefs about love shape your relationships. When I learned to love and forgive who I was, the belief that I wasn't worthy of love dissolved. This also helped me realize the story that people would try to change me. I finally understood that it's okay if some people don't like me or want to be with me. I knew my worth and trusted that the right person would come along. These lessons didn't come overnight. It took a few painful reminders for me to really embody what self-worth looked like in love. One of those moments came with someone from my past. I remember a guy I had been on and off with since high school. I finally ended things when I was 28. We met again after my divorce, and I quickly created a story in my mind. Maybe this time we could be together for good, which after a few months of texting, I intuitively knew that something wasn't right. Turns out he was just saying what I wanted to hear while secretly dating someone else. He made excuses for not seeing me, and when I called him out on it, he told me, "You can't visit because the town is too small and it would ruin my reputation." He also said, good luck finding someone who'll put up with your lifestyle and travel the world with you. Instead of reacting emotionally, I stood up for myself, wished him well, and never spoke to him again. It didn't hurt as much as it would have in the past because I finally respected and loved myself enough to know I deserved a better match. I remember telling him I will never be with someone again if it means losing who I am and not living by my values. I love myself too much to allow anyone to take away my power. That moment showed me that I would never allow myself to fall into an abusive relationship again. My subconscious had previously attracted such relationships because I didn't think I deserved love. Once I realized my worth, everything changed. That experience became a turning point. It showed me what it felt like to choose myself, even when it hurt. And from that moment on, I started seeing love in a whole new way. Have you ever heard the saying, you find love when you're not looking for it? It's so true. When we desperately search for that perfect person, we tend to overlook red flags. We settle for someone who doesn't meet our needs, or we fall in love with an idea of who they are rather than who they truly are. I spent years making excuses for the person I thought I loved, and in doing so, I caused myself more harm than good. Eventually, I decided to get specific about what I wanted in a partner. I made a list and adjusted them as I dated different people. I learned how important the wording was in these lists. For example, I once listed, I want someone who wants to travel with me. When I asked an old partner about traveling, his response was, what if I never get the chance? It was a wake-up call to be more precise in my expectations. After that relationship, I refined my list to 27 specific traits, and sure enough, I met someone who matched everything I'd written down. I realized that relationships don't have to be hard. When you're with someone who respects you and values your opinion, difficult conversations become easier. Yes, you'll still face challenges, but supporting each other makes it feel more manageable. The work I've done on myself has led to a healthier, easier relationship. I used to believe that all relationships were chaotic, and if my partner didn't yell back at me, it meant they didn't love me. But now I understand that a healthy relationship brings peace. You should feel calm around your partner, not always nervous. Now that I have shifted the belief that relationships are hard, There was another belief around love that needed to be rewritten. Once I made peace with my past and stopped chasing love, I realized there was still another story to rewrite, the one that told me lasting love didn't exist. Love always fades. To shift my belief that love always fades, I looked to other examples of lasting love. My Nana passed away 21 years ago, and my grandpa still loves her deeply after all that time. I also looked at the love my, what I call second parents had. They have been together now for 43 years. The way they still look at each other with love and joy is admirable. I asked them what their secret was. They said it was open communication, mutual respect, forgiveness, and remembering to have fun. I had to ask myself, why can't I have this too? One quality I added to my grandparents' list for a long, loving relationship is gratitude. Practicing daily gratitude for your partner is essential. It's easy to take each other for granted, especially with the distraction of daily life and social media comparisons. But when you pour into your relationship, both you and your partner will feel more fulfilled. Have you ever had unrealistic expectations about what love needed to look like? I certainly have. I believed we needed to be intimate several times a day to prove we loved each other. Over time, I recognized that intimacy is not just physical. It's about vulnerable conversations and emotional connection. Each person has different ways of showing love, so it's important to understand your partner's love language. By giving each other what you need to feel loved, you can create a deeper, healthier bond. Remember, our brains are wired to prove our beliefs right. If you feel unloved, ask yourself whether your expectations are realistic or if you're unconsciously reinforcing old beliefs. My new rules for love. I am worthy of love. The perfect partner for me exists. Relationships are fulfilling. The right person will love all of me and want to grow with me. Love is beautiful, and it is better to have loved than never have loved at all. The honeymoon phase doesn't have to end. The more I reflect on love through others, my grandparents, my mentors, my relationships, the more I saw that everything always comes back to one thing: how deeply I loved myself, and that's where the real work began. Coming home to self-love. I still can't pinpoint the exact moment I fell out of love with myself. As children, we're born with a natural sense of self-love, but over time, life chips away at it. For me, it wasn't one big moment of loss. It was a slow accumulation of messages I absorbed from the world around me. Little comments, comparisons, and unspoken expectations shaped the way I saw myself. I started to believe that in order to be loved, I had to be more blonder hair, thinner thighs, better grades, a quieter personality. Even my mom would casually say, "You'd be so much prettier if you dyed your hair lighter." She didn't mean any harm, but I took it to heart, and that's how it worked. One message after another stacking up inside me like bricks. You're not enough, you have to change, be less, be more. One of my earliest memories of this shift was in middle school, when I was 14. I had a huge crush on a boy, but couldn't bring myself to talk to him. I had already convinced myself I wasn't good enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough, not popular enough. Why would anyone want to be with you anyway? The self-talk was brutal. I didn't have a single kind thing to say about myself. Looking back, I wish I could pinpoint the exact moment the self-love disappeared, but the truth is, it didn't vanish all at once. It eroded slowly, worn down by years of comparison, silence, and the stories I told myself about who I needed to be lovable. It wasn't until I was 29 years into my healing journey that I finally found self-love again. I'll always remember the exact moment I realized, wow, I really do love myself. The date was May 7th, 2022. I was hiking near Mount Shasta to a little lake called Heart Lake when I spotted a golf ball-sized rock. When I picked it up, I realized it was a pink quartz crystal. At the time, I didn't know much about crystals, but a friend I was with told me the pink quartz represents love. Tears started rolling down my face. I didn't care if my friend thought I was strange because I felt something I never felt before: unconditional love for myself. It almost felt like my heart wanted to explode. That single moment cracked something open in me. From then on, self-love wasn't just a concept I talked about. It became the foundation for how I lived and how I related to everyone around me. The experience showed me what my therapist had been telling me all along. You cannot truly open your heart to love someone else until you learn to love yourself first. Without self-love, relationships often become selfish. We end up depending on our partners to meet our needs and define our self-worth. We do things for them, but often with the expectation of getting something in return, instead of doing it purely to make them happy. And when that expectation isn't met, it breeds resentment. Learning how to love myself changed how I showed up in my relationships. I stopped dropping everything for friends who wouldn't do the same for me. I learned how to set boundaries with family and friends. And I soon realized that setting boundaries is one of the most powerful forms of self-love you can practice. How I rebuilt self-love, step by step. Self-love didn't arrive all at once. It wasn't some grand awakening. It came through daily choices, small acts of devotion that ended up over time. I started showing up for myself the way I'd always shown up for others. I took myself out on dates, picnics overlooking the Pacific, solo movie nights, dressing up just because, even dancing, something that felt widely out of my comfort zone, became a ritual. Each moment told my subconscious, you matter. I changed the way I dressed. I let go of old clothes that held memories of who I used to be, the fun party girl, the version of me who wore outfits to gain approval. I replaced them with pieces that made me feel powerful. At the time, leather became my armor. Confidence became my aesthetic. Now it's sundress, embracing more feminine side. I practiced self-trust. I realized I kept promises to others, but constantly broke promises to myself. So I started small, one commitment a day. Wash the dishes, take a walk, send the email. Every completed task became a building block of trust. I learned to set boundaries. I stopped saying yes when I meant no. I gave myself permission to protect my peace, even if it disappointed someone else. I wrote out my core values and used them as a compass. If something went against them, I didn't participate. I forgave myself. This was the hardest part. I carried a lot of guilt for things that happened in my past, things that made me feel unworthy of love. I blamed myself for the death of someone close to me. I blamed myself for the multiple sexual assaults I endured, thinking I was somehow at fault. I carried that shame for years, even blaming myself for not speaking up when I found out that same person had assaulted someone else. But healing meant letting go, wrapping my younger self in love, telling her you did the best you could. It was never your fault. Forgiveness cracked the door open. Self-love walked through it. That deep forgiveness became the final piece. It cleared the space for something new, a kind of love that flowed freely without needing validation or approval. Love is no longer something I chase, it's something I create, nurture, and share. The deeper I fall in love with myself, the more I attract people who reflect that same love back. I no longer settle, I no longer shrink, I no longer mistake chaos for passion, because now I know love isn't loud or dramatic. Healthy love feels like peace. And at the end of each chapter, I do have exercises. So I'm going to read one. If you want the rest, you'll have to get the book. So, exercise 1. Look at yourself in the mirror every morning and say, I love you. I love everything about you, the good, the bad, and everything in between. I love who you're becoming. If it feels right, you can also include, I forgive you. And thanks for joining me today for chapter 3. Next week, we will move forward, or chapter 4. Sorry, that was chapter 4. Next week, we'll move forward with chapter 5. I can't wait to see you then. I hope you enjoyed this, and I love you.